Evelyn's eyes glistened. I wish he were here to see this. He is. Michael placed a hand over his heart. In every decision you've made. She smiled gratefully. The car door closed. As the sedan pulled away from the alley, Sarah happened to glance in its direction. She only caught a brief glimpse through the tinted window. An elegant woman wearing a cream-colored suit. For just a second. The woman's profile looked strangely familiar. Sarah frowned. No. She whispered. It couldn't be. She shook her head and returned to helping the other vendors, unaware that she had just seen the beginning of the greatest revelation the town had ever witnessed. Across the city, the boardroom of Carter Industries was filling with directors, attorneys, and senior executives. Every seat was occupied. The atmosphere was tense. Then the double doors slowly opened. The room fell silent. A woman's heels echoed across the polished floor. One by one, the directors rose to their feet. Several gasped. One executive nearly dropped his folder. Daniel turned toward the entrance. The color drained from his face. Standing confidently at the head of the table was the woman everyone had believed was gone forever. Evelyn, he whispered. His voice cracked. Aunt Evelyn. The meeting, and the truth, had finally begun. The boardroom remained frozen. No one spoke. No one even dared to breathe too loudly. Evelyn Carter walked slowly to the head of the polished conference table, her cream-colored suit replacing the warm clothes everyone had associated with the elderly vegetable seller. Her eyes moved from one director to another. Some looked relieved. Some looked ashamed. Others couldn't even meet her gaze. Daniel remained standing. His lips trembled. Aunt Evelyn. He took one hesitant step forward. I thought. You thought I was gone? Evelyn finished quietly. Daniel lowered his head. Yes. And instead of searching for me, you searched for my signature. The words struck the room like thunder. No one moved. Michael Lawson placed a thick stack of binders on the table. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced. Over the past 11 months, Mrs. Evelyn Carter has conducted an independent investigation into Carter Industries, the Carter Foundation, and every redevelopment project connected to this company. He opened the first binder. Every page contains verified evidence. Photographs. Bank transfers. Forged permits. Recorded conversations. Signed contracts. Michael clicked a remote. A large screen descended from the ceiling. The first video appeared. Margaret Blake kicking Evelyn's basket across the market. You filthy old beggar. The room fell silent. Another video played. Victor Stone ordering officers to remove vendors before any legal notice had been issued. Then another. Daniel laughing as he signed documents intended to transfer control of the Carter estate while Evelyn was still missing. The screen went dark. No one dared speak. Finally, Evelyn broke the silence. My husband spent 42 years building this company. She rested her hand on the conference table. He believed success meant creating opportunities for ordinary families. She looked directly at the directors. When did we decide those families no longer mattered? One elderly board member slowly stood. We failed him. Another director nodded. We failed you too. Evelyn shook her head gently. No. You failed yourselves. Daniel closed his eyes. I have no excuse. You don't. I let ambition become greed. You did. I told myself I was protecting the company. You were protecting your position. Daniel couldn't argue. Every excuse he had rehearsed disappeared the moment he saw the evidence. Tears filled his eyes. I became the kind of man Uncle William warned me about. Evelyn's expression softened, but only slightly. Do you remember what he said the day you joined the company? Daniel answered without looking up. If people fear you, they'll obey you for a while. He swallowed hard. But if they trust you, they'll build something that lasts forever. Evelyn nodded. You remembered. I remembered too late. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Daniel did something no one in the room expected. He walked to the center of the boardroom, removed his executive identification badge, placed it on the table, and stepped back. I resign as Chief Executive Officer of Carter Industries. Gasps echoed around the room. I don't deserve to lead this company. He turned toward the directors. I was entrusted with a legacy. I treated it like an inheritance. There is a difference. He faced Evelyn once more. I don't expect forgiveness. But I am sorry. The apology wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't polished. For the first time in months. It was honest. Evelyn studied him for a long moment. Then she spoke. Your resignation is accepted. Daniel nodded quietly. But he looked up. Whether this is the end of your story depends entirely on what you choose to do after today. Hope flickered in his eyes for the first time. Not because he had escaped the consequences, but because someone still believed he could become a better man. Michael closed the final binder. There is one final matter. He handed Evelyn a folder marked Carter Foundation. She opened it. Effective immediately, she announced, all demolition activities affecting the public market are permanently cancelled. Several directors smiled. The redevelopment budget will instead be used to renovate the market, improve vendor facilities, and establish a small business grant program for every qualified family operating there. Applause broke out around the room. Evelyn wasn't finished. And before this meeting ends, she looked at the floor-to-ceiling windows toward the town below. There's one person who still has no idea why I disappeared. A gentle smile crossed her face. Sarah. She closed the folder. It's time she learned the truth. Sarah had just finished arranging the last basket of bread when a sleek black sedan pulled up beside the market. The conversations around her slowly faded. Two professionally dressed men stepped out first. They looked around before opening the rear door. Michael Lawson emerged. The moment Sarah saw him, she recognized him as the lawyer who had confronted Daniel. He smiled warmly. Good afternoon, Sarah. She wiped the flour from her hands. Mr. Lawson. What brings you back? I've come to deliver an invitation. He handed her a cream-colored envelope sealed with an elegant gold crest. Sarah looked confused. What is this? I was asked to bring you to the Carter Foundation. She frowned. There must be some mistake. There isn't. I don't know anyone there. Michael smiled knowingly. I believe you know the chairwoman better than you think. Sarah looked even more puzzled. Who is she? Michael glanced toward Evelyn's empty vegetable stall. You'll find out soon. Sarah looked around. Speaking of which, I haven't seen Evelyn all day. Michael's smile grew. She's already there. A strange feeling settled in Sarah's chest. Something wasn't adding up. Can Noah come with me? She specifically asked that he come. Sarah looked down at her son. What do you think? Noah grinned. Can I wear my nice shirt? Sarah laughed for the first time in days. I think that's a yes. An hour later, the sedan stopped in front of the Carter Foundation headquarters. Sarah's eyes widened. The building was breathtaking. Tall glass windows reflected the afternoon sun. Beautiful gardens surrounded the entrance. Employees in business attire walked confidently through the lobby. Sarah looked down at her simple dress. I don't belong here. Michael gently opened her door. Today, you belong here more than anyone. Inside, every employee greeted Michael respectfully. Good afternoon, Mr. Lawson. Welcome back, sir. Sarah became increasingly nervous. They entered a private elevator. Instead of pressing the lobby button, Michael inserted a security card. The elevator climbed to the top floor. The doors opened. Soft piano music filled the hallway. At the end of it stood two large wooden doors. Michael stopped walking. Before we go in, Sarah looked at him. I want you to remember something. What? Never judge a person's worth by the clothes they wear. Sarah smiled. I learned that from Evelyn. Michael nodded. Yes. You did. He slowly pushed the doors open. Inside was a magnificent boardroom. The directors of Carter Industries were seated around the long table. Daniel Carter stood quietly near the windows. Sarah immediately became uncomfortable. Why is he here? Then she noticed something even stranger. Everyone in the room was standing, waiting for someone. A familiar voice broke the silence. Sarah. She turned toward the head of the table. Her heart nearly stopped. Standing there, wearing an elegant cream-colored suit, her silver hair perfectly styled, a diamond wedding ring sparkling under the lights, was Evelyn. The vegetable basket was gone. The worn shoes were gone. The faded cardigan was gone. Everything about her radiated quiet confidence. Sarah stared in complete disbelief. Evelyn. Tears filled her eyes. I don't understand. Evelyn walked toward her with the same gentle smile Sarah had seen every morning in the market. I know. Sarah looked around the room. Then back at Evelyn. Who are you? The room became completely silent. Evelyn reached out and gently held Sarah's hands. My full name. She paused, emotion filling her voice. Is Evelyn Carter. Sarah blinked. No. The Evelyn Carter. Evelyn nodded. Yes. The widow of William Carter. The founder of Carter Industries. The chairwoman of the Carter Foundation. And she smiled softly. The woman you believed was simply a poor vegetable seller. Sarah's knees nearly gave way. No. No. She covered her mouth with both hands. I don't believe this. You carried vegetables every morning. You shared bread with me. You sat with Noah. You. Her voice broke. You let me think. I was helping you. Evelyn gently squeezed her hands. You were. Sarah shook her head. But, you're the richest woman in town. Why? The question echoed through the room. Every director waited for Evelyn's answer. Evelyn glanced at the large portrait of her late husband hanging on the wall. After a long silence, she spoke. The day my husband died, everyone suddenly became kind. They praised me. They brought gifts. They promised loyalty. But I couldn't tell who loved our family and who loved our fortune. So I disappeared. I traded this office. She looked down at her elegant suit. For a vegetable cart. I traded luxury. For ordinary life. And for 11 months. I watched how people treated someone they believed had nothing. Tears rolled down Sarah's face. And all this time, you were testing people. Evelyn nodded. I was. Sarah looked down. I'm sorry. Evelyn frowned gently. For what? I wish I'd done more. A soft smile spread across Evelyn's face. My dear. You already did more than anyone else. She turned toward the directors. While others saw an old woman, Sarah saw a human being. While others threw insults, she offered kindness. While others walked away, she stood beside me. Evelyn looked back into Sarah's tear-filled eyes. You never knew who I was. You simply chose compassion. And that She smiled through her own tears. Is exactly why you're here. The room erupted into heartfelt applause as Sarah stood speechless, still trying to grasp that the friend she had protected, defended, and shared her last loaf of bread with was the woman who had quietly been watching everyone's true character all along. The applause slowly faded. Sarah remained frozen. She looked around the boardroom as though expecting someone to tell her it was all a dream. Instead, every face she saw was smiling at her. Noah tugged gently on her hand. Mom. She looked down. I told you she was special. A soft laugh filled the room, breaking the tension. Even Daniel managed a faint smile. Evelyn knelt beside Noah. You've always been a very brave little man. Noah smiled shyly. I wasn't brave. I was just protecting my grandma. The word caught Evelyn completely off guard. Grandma. Noah nodded innocently. That's what I've been calling you when Mom wasn't listening. Tears immediately filled Evelyn's eyes. No one had called her that since her own grandchildren were very young. She wrapped Noah in a warm embrace. Thank you. You've given me something money could never buy. She stood again and turned toward the board. Ladies and gentlemen. I've spent 11 months searching for one person. The directors exchanged confused looks. Not the smartest. Not the richest. Not the most educated. The kindest. She extended her hand toward Sarah. I found her. Sarah immediately shook her head. No. I'm just an ordinary woman. Evelyn smiled. Exactly. You never tried to impress anyone. You never expected a reward. You simply chose kindness every single day. Michael placed another folder on the table. Evelyn opened it. As chairwoman of the Carter Foundation, I am announcing several decisions that take effect immediately. Everyone leaned forward. First, she looked at Sarah. Noah's heart surgery will be performed by the best pediatric cardiac specialist available. Sarah covered her mouth. The foundation will pay every dollar. You will never receive another medical bill. Sarah broke into tears. She couldn't speak. She simply hugged Noah as tightly as she could. The room quietly applauded. Second, Evelyn continued. The foundation has purchased the apartment building where Sarah and Noah live. Sarah looked up in disbelief. I don't understand. You no longer have an eviction notice. You now have permanent ownership of your home. Sarah stared at her. My home. Evelyn nodded. No rent. No mortgage. It belongs to you. Sarah collapsed into a chair, overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Your actions have already spoken. Several directors discreetly wiped tears from their eyes. Evelyn continued. Third, she looked toward the board members. The Carter Foundation will establish a small vendor opportunity fund. A $10 million endowment dedicated to helping market vendors expand their businesses. Cheers erupted from several employees watching from the back of the room. No family should lose their livelihood because they lack opportunity. She paused before smiling warmly at Sarah. And finally, I have one last announcement. Sarah looked up. I've grown older. My husband is gone. This foundation needs someone whose heart cannot be bought. She walked towards Sarah carrying a small wooden box. Inside rested a silver nameplate. Sarah read the engraved words aloud. Executive Director. Carter Foundation. Her eyes widened. No. I can't. I've never run a foundation. I've never even worked in an office. Evelyn gently closed Sarah's hands around the nameplate. I can teach skills. I can hire experts. I can build teams. She smiled. But I cannot teach character. You already possess the one quality this foundation needs most. Sarah's voice trembled. What if I fail? Evelyn took both of her hands. Then you'll learn. But I know something about you. You'll never stop caring. And that's why you won't fail. The board members rose to their feet. One after another, they applauded. Not because Sarah was wealthy. Not because she was powerful. But because every person in that room knew she had earned the position long before she knew Evelyn's true identity. Daniel slowly walked toward Sarah. She instinctively became tense. He stopped a few feet away. I owe you an apology. Sarah remained silent. I judged people by what they owned. You judged them by who they were. He lowered his head. I want to become more like that. Sarah studied him for a moment before offering a small smile. Then start today. Daniel nodded. I will. Evelyn watched the exchange with quiet satisfaction. This was the ending William would have wanted. Not revenge. Transformation. She stepped toward the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the town. Far below, the market buzzed with life once again. Children laughed between the stalls. Vendors greeted their customers. Hope had returned. Evelyn turned back toward the room. My husband used to tell me something. Everyone became silent. A person's true wealth is measured by the number of lives they lived, not the dollars they keep. She smiled at Sarah, Noah, Daniel, and every person gathered there. Today. I know he was right. The room rose in a standing ovation as sunlight poured through the windows, marking not just the beginning of a new chapter for the Carter family, but for the entire town. And somewhere beyond the boardroom walls, kindness had won a victory that wealth alone could never have purchased. If this story touched your heart, let us know in the comments, what would you have done if you met Evelyn when she appeared to be poor? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another inspiring story. Remember, the greatest measure of a person's character is how they treat someone who has nothing to offer in return.